show us this again. This is unbelievable to me. You were with the European Parliament from Romania. You requested the documents, the contracts with the vaccines, and show me what they sent you.
So this is what the European Commission, which is the executive body leading the European Union, sent and published to all of us. So this is the table of contents. Check this out. Here's a chapter that is totally blacked out. We don't even know the name, not the content, but even the name of the chapter. So check how these pages were released to the public. Look. So based on a contract like this is the contract with Moderna, but with Pfizer it's exactly the same. You see, billions, not millions, billions of doses of vaccines, I mean it's tens of pages like this, were purchased and the Europeans were forced to be vaccinated with these medical products in order to be able to exercise basic fundamental rights. So let me add something to you. We have an agency in Europe called European Medicines Agency, which is the equivalent of FDA here in the US. And based on their data, not mine, it's not based on their data, and I'll show it to you. Check this out here. By 2023, by the end of December 2023, check the last line. Almost 12,000 spontaneous reports of fatal outcomes happen in the EU after they receive these vaccines. Almost 12,000, I mean, they call it fatal outcomes. No, they are not fatal outcomes. These are deaths. People die after they were vaccinated. So 12,000, imagine that. That's 12,000 families who lost a loved one spontaneously. We are not talking about people who died, down the road, months or weeks after they got injected with these medical products spontaneously, and they still are keep pushing for these jobs. It's absolutely insane. So it's our job as elected officials, in my case in the European Parliament, but I hope members of the US Congress will do exactly the same. We have to stop first this madness, and second of all, we have to make these companies accountable for what they've done, because they lied to all of us.
And if that wasn't bad enough, if they unleashed COVID on the world, they forced the vaccines on billions of people, and then you requested the data on when they started the testing. So theoretically, say that again. So theoretically, you wouldn't have start testing on something.
I mean, obviously, as an elected member of the European Parliament, every time when I have a public statement, I want to make sure that the facts are straight, right? Because I don't want to use this position, to spread misinformation, and lie to people or to mess them around. So I sent a request to EMA, which stands for European Medicines Agency, which is the equivalent of FDA in the US, to tell me, among other things, what is the date when all of these vaccine companies started the studies in animals, and they submitted the studies to EMA in order to receive authorizations. And this is exactly, the answer that I received is from 2021. So let me show you the tests submitted by Moderna. So here you can see the date when these tests started. Now here's
2020, 2020, but then 2017, 2016, 2017.
Exactly. Now let me tell you something. The world found out about this virus in December of 2019. So the assumption is that you have a virus and then you start building a vaccine against that virus, right? So I'm just asking, I'm not accusing anybody. How is it possible? I mean, this is an official answer from a European institution. How is it possible for Moderna to submit studies in order to receive authorization for their vaccine, and these studies were conducted years before we found out about the virus? Let me show you something else about Pfizer. Pfizer, for example, these are the tests submitted by Pfizer. So Pfizer started the first test on January the 14th, 2020. The interesting thing is we found out the DNA sequence of the virus on January the 11th, 2020, because someone from China released it to the public. So I'm just asking, how is it possible that in 3 days a company would develop a vaccine and start the testing of it? I'm just asking, I'm not accusing, I'm not saying anything. Let me ask you something else, or show you something else. One of the things that I asked this European agency was to tell me when the tests on humans started. And this is the date.
Wow.
So 2 months after they kind of created the vaccine, they already started the test in humans. But here's something interesting. Usually when you do tests like this, you do the test and then you have to see if the vaccine is working. In other words, if the vaccine is stopping the spread of the virus and if the vaccine is providing you immunity, because otherwise that medical product cannot be labeled as a vaccine if it's not producing both of these things. So I asked this medical agency to tell me the following. If people who were part of these tests were ever exposed to the virus after they were injected with the vaccine. And this is what they told me. Check this out, and I highlight it. So what they're actually saying is, when they conducted the test in humans, and look at the dates again here, the whole world was in lockdown. So they gathered these subjects, they injected the subjects, and then they had to stay for 3 months, right? In the lockdown. They were not able to communicate with each other. So after 3 months, they tested them again to see if they had COVID, and that's the reason why they said that these vaccines are so-called 99% effective. And so we see right now how effective they are because they are not stopping the transmission of the virus, and they are clearly not providing immunity. So this is how
and they're killing people at the same time.
On top of it. So this is how they play with the whole world. This is the answer.
So they had the vaccines prior to the virus even being released.
That's what the data
from their
show.
own data.
From their own data. That's what they show.
Wow.
And I hope the next Congress in the U.S. and the next U.S. president is going to look into this, because this is even the reason why, in many of our opinions, Trump was not in office anymore, because this virus was spread exactly at the right moment to affect his presidency.
How important is it that we get President Trump back in office in America for Europe and the world?
I think not only for Europe, for the world, it is imperative. And it's, for many of us, it's the only hope.